at Mamaearth. This is a CNBC TV18 exclusive. Varun, thank you so much for joining in. First up, on the reports that were, floating around about you having withdrawn from the IPO process, what's your comment here?
So the reports are largely baseless. We are still in the process, an IPO process. First step of that process after filing DRHP is engaging with the banks, engaging with, more importantly, the regulator, and awaiting approval on the draft prospectus that you have filed. And as we speak, we are engaging with SEBI, and SEBI is reviewing our prospectus. Right, we are hopeful that by next month we should get our approval on the prospectus. Post which, as per SEBI's process, we have 12 months to file the RHP, and after the approval comes in is when we will engage with our bankers to finalize the dates for filing RHP.
All right. So you are saying that there has been no holding back on the IPO plans. By next month, you will get the SEBI's approval on your DRHP, and then you have another 12 months to go ahead and file the IPO. But in the meanwhile, a lot has happened in the world of consumption, in the world of new age companies, etc. as well. We've seen a big decline in the valuations of some of these listed players. With the word that you've had with your initial investors, initial round of conversations that you've had with bankers, etc., has there been any word on valuations, or you've let that be until the IPO approval comes in?
Well, firstly, I would like to clarify that as a company, while we are young, and we are in a market which is the beauty and personal care market that has been there for centuries. And will exist for centuries in India. And we are building brands, which is again a business that has existed for hundreds of years. And we are an FMCG company which uses the new age technologies, media, and to actually build the brands in the mind of consumers. And hence, for us, what we are more concerned is how are consumers panning and how is that trend in business panning, and that has been doing exceptionally well for us. There is no, deviation from what we had planned, what we had seen our markets and brands shaping up. In fact, some of the brands are shaping up far quickly and becoming far bigger than we imagined them to be. And so all is good on that front. And valuation is a conversation, right? And that would happen once we sort of, start meeting investors and then start engaging on that. And I think we're still some time away from it.
Okay, Varun, hi. I just wanted a quick clarification. The initial offering, or what you all had decided or discussed, was around 400 crores and an OFS as well. So is there any change in the size of the IPO that you could be considering?
No change as we speak.
Right.
And when we go closer to time, and usually the process, the way it takes place is once you have done your investor conversations and certain valuation ranges are arrived, is when the sellers have some flexibility on how much OFS that they want to do. They might increase, they might reduce. But given the largest investor in the company is not selling a single share, given promoters are retaining 97% of the share, I don't see much changes happening.
Right. It's been more than 90 days since you've filed the papers. Were there any queries raised by SEBI? Because usually, approval should have come by now, right?
So Mangalam, it's a 90 to 120 day period that the regulator takes. And let's also keep in mind, we filed over the New Year's, and not a lot of people are working in the week of 31st Jan and 31st December and all of that. So there is a bit of non-working vacation days which are there. And queries is a standard part of the regulator's process. And they want to make sure that enough clarification, risk assessment is being added to DRHP so that consumers can make the right decisions, and retail investors can make the right decisions. And I think they have shared their queries. We've already responded to all of the queries.
And could you give us a sense of what the nature of those queries were? I mean, what kind of queries did they have for you to have responded to all of them?
I think it'll be going into too much unnecessarily detailed. But the queries largely are more around, more around, more around risks or business models, etc., which they wanted to understand. Please do understand they're also seeing the company's prospectus for the first time, and they want to make sure they understand it well.
Okay, so I'm sure you're in touch with your bankers, Varun, to give us a sense in terms of when you expect to hit the market, considering that your IPO plans have not changed?
Again, like I said, I think we first start focusing on getting this approval our way. And post that, we want to get together with our syndicate, right, and have a conversation around what is the best timing to file RHP. And basis that, we will need to then time it backwards, because there is marketing for IPO, meeting investors, doing road shows, meeting analysts, etc., that will be required. And so in line with that, we will put a network together.
Right.
Okay.
Last question before we let you go from my end, Varun, is that if you just do a quick Google search, type Mamaearth valuation, the number that comes up is $3 billion. Now that you're saying that, nothing has changed so far, does that valuation number, hold any water? I think he's frozen at the right time, the perfect time, We've been talking about the valuations of Mamaearth, what it could be, and the person who could have answered that chose to freeze at the right time.
Yeah, hopefully maybe we'll try and reconnect, but there are no change.
We have it back. Varun, so I was just saying, Go ahead. Your frame froze. Yeah.
That Zoom will save me.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Please go ahead.
No, so by the way, we never shared that number as well. It was a number which was pulled out of a scoop, which was shared by someone in the media, and we never subscribed to that number. We don't support that number. And the valuation process will be fair and will be in line with how the market models the business out, models the cash flows out, and discounts it to today's period. And like I said, those conversations will take place once we hit the roadshow.
Okay, Varun, just before we let you go, you might be having conversations or you might be going for a roadshow later on, but you might be having conversations with your bankers, and everybody knows what's happened to a couple of these consumer-facing companies that have listed recently. It's been a rough ride. A couple of companies have decided not to hit the markets at this point in time, simply because it's a tough time for a couple of these new age companies. From that context, what are the feelers that you're getting from your bankers, in terms of hitting the markets with an IPO at this point? The interest that you might see.
I think the only thing that I would say there is that their early feedback from investors who have seen our document and our story is very, very positive. And they haven't seen as much interest in terms of the number of investors who want to meet us and talk to us about our business. And that just tells us that it also depends on the company, the business, and the business performance which is going on, and what you forecast and foresee over the next couple of years. And I think from all of those perspectives, we are not as worried about interest. I think there'll be significant interest when we go in.
We're running out of time, Varun, but not questions. Hope to have a longer conversation with you just around the time, perhaps, when you do get that approval from SEBI. You're saying that, you're now just awaiting clarifications and a confirmation coming in from them. You've answered all their concerns, and you've said that reports of you withdrawing the IPO are baseless as well, and that the timelines are perfectly on schedule. Wish you good luck. We will still await some word from you on the valuations here, because the street believes that if the number that was scooped out is correct, then it is extremely high. But I see you smiling and putting yourself on mute. With that, I think we'll take your time on this edition of Halftime Report.